Have you ever noticed how a single careless word, an impatient glance, or a thoughtless action can lodge itself in your mind, playing over and over until it poisons the rest of your day? We live in a world where irritation waits at every corner. The stranger cutting in line, the friend who breaks a promise, the driver who honks before the light turns green. And yet, the Stoics would remind us, none of these things truly have the power to disturb us unless we hand them the key. Imagine walking through a day untouched by provocation. Not because the world has suddenly grown kinder, but because your inner ground has become unshakable. The noise still exists, but it can't pierce you. You're no longer dragged into petty battles or drained by the moods of others. Instead, you move with a calm so steady that it unsettles those who try to control you and inspires those who watch you. This isn't about pretending nothing matters, nor about swallowing your feelings until they harden inside you. It's about mastering your response so completely that even chaos finds no purchase in you. In the moments where others expect a reaction, you offer stillness. And in that stillness, you win. So if you're ready to step into that kind of power, quiet, grounded, and beyond reach, let's begin. Your training starts now. Lesson 1. Your reactions are your choice. Have you ever noticed how quickly peace can shatter? One moment, you're enjoying the still warmth of morning coffee or the quiet rhythm of a walk through the park, and the next, a careless remark slices through your calm. Anger rises, frustration tightens your chest, and your mind whispers, "They just ruined my day." But if we pause, the truth emerges. They didn't. You did. The Stoics remind us that our emotions are ours to govern. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. No one can take your peace unless you place it in their hands." Think of it like wearing noise-cancelling headphones in a chaotic city. The car horns still blare, voices still shout, but they cannot reach you. Mastering your reactions works the same way. The noise of others remains, but it passes outside your gates. Between stimulus and response, there is a space, and in that space lies the power to choose. That choice shapes not only your next action, but the person you are becoming. I once knew a man, Daniel, who worked in an office where tension was constant. In one meeting, a colleague dismissed his idea with a smirk. The old Daniel would have snapped back, fueling a quiet war of resentment. But that day, he paused. He asked himself, "Is this truly about me or about them?" He saw the stress in his colleague's eyes, the insecurity behind the jab. By reframing it, he robbed the moment of its sting. He spoke calmly, offered his point again, and left the meeting with his composure intact. His colleague's mood remained turbulent, but Daniel's peace stood unshaken. This is not about silencing how you feel. Anger, disappointment, irritation, these are natural waves of the human mind, but they do not have to dictate the course of your ship. When you notice a surge of emotion, name it quietly: anger, hurt, irritation. Then question it. Is this about the event itself or my interpretation of it? From there, act according to your values, not the heat of the moment. The freedom this brings is extraordinary. The rude stranger, the delayed train, the thoughtless remark all lose their grip on you. You move through life like a steady flame in the wind, touched by the air around you, but never extinguished. Each time you choose calm over chaos, you strengthen the muscles of self-mastery. Each moment you refuse to hand over your peace, you reclaim the throne of your own mind. So the next time someone tries to push your buttons, remember, their behavior is a reflection of them, not a definition of you. And in the quiet decision to respond with grace, you are not only protecting your peace, you are practicing the deepest kind of freedom. Now, let's turn to the next principle, one that builds on this foundation and teaches you how to guard that peace, even in the face of relentless provocation. Lesson 2. Release expectations of others. Have you ever given your time, your kindness, or your help to someone only to discover that when you needed them, they were nowhere to be found? That sting of disappointment comes with a quiet thought: I would never treat them that way. But here is the reality the Stoics understood well. People do not live by your code. They live by theirs. Expecting others to think, feel, and act exactly as you would is like expecting the wind to blow only when you approve. It will never happen, and clinging to that hope only robs you of your peace. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, expecting the wicked not to do wrong is madness. It's like expecting a fig tree not to bear figs. Each of us walks a path, carved by different experiences, values, and wounds. When someone behaves in a way that offends or disappoints you, it is far more a mirror of their nature than a judgment on yours. Trying to mold them into your reflection only breeds frustration and keeps you chained to a battle you cannot win. I once knew a woman named Claire who worked with a colleague infamous for interrupting during meetings. Every time she began to speak, he would cut in with his own thoughts, leaving her simmering with resentment. At first, she tried subtle corrections, even direct confrontations, but nothing changed. Then one day, she decided to release the expectation entirely. She realized his habit was his, not hers, and she stopped measuring his actions against her own standards. Instead, she focused on delivering her points calmly and clearly, regardless of whether he interrupted. The tension dissolved, not because he transformed, but because she stopped giving him the power to dictate her inner state. This shift doesn't mean you must tolerate cruelty or abandon your boundaries. It means you stop attaching your well-being to whether others meet your personal measure of decency. Epictetus taught, when you are offended at someone's fault, turn to yourself and study your own failings. Then you will forget your anger. The less you demand that people behave like you, the more space you create for acceptance, and the less room you leave for bitterness to take root. So the next time the friend forgets to call, the stranger is rude, or the co-worker ignores your effort, pause. Ask yourself, was I expecting them to be me? And then remember, they are not. They are themselves. And you are free to choose your response. When you release the invisible leash of expectation, you reclaim the energy once wasted on trying to choreograph other people's behavior. Peace comes when you stop wrestling with the world to make it match your script. Let people be who they are, and you remain who you choose to be. In that quiet acceptance lies a strength few possess, and it prepares you for the next lesson, where we explore how to guard that strength even when others test it. Lesson 3. Choose peace over being right. Think back to the last argument you found yourself in, maybe over something petty, like which route would get you there faster, or something more personal, like a disagreement with someone you love. As the words traded back and forth, did you feel that stubborn heat rising inside, the urge to prove that your version of the truth was the only one that mattered? We've all been there, gripping our perspective as though letting go would somehow diminish us. But the Stoics would remind us, truth is not strengthened by shouting, and your worth is not decided by winning a debate. Seneca once wrote, "It is better to conquer your grief than to deceive it," and the same can be said for pride. The constant need to be right is not strength, It's a quiet fear that being wrong would mean being less. But what if you could trade that fear for freedom? What if, instead of defending every inch of ground, you stepped back and chose peace over victory? I knew a man named Robert who prided himself on knowing the best solution to any problem. At work, a colleague once challenged his approach to a project, insisting there was a better way. Robert felt the old reflex to argue, to defend, to dismantle every flaw in the other's plan. But something in him paused. He simply said, "I see your point. Let's try it your way." The project went forward, and though his colleague's idea wasn't perfect, the team's trust in Robert grew. They saw a man who valued progress over ego. That day, he realized something. Yielding in an argument doesn't make you smaller. It makes the space around you calmer, more open, more powerful. Letting go of the need to be right doesn't mean abandoning your principles or becoming silent in the face of falsehood. It means knowing which battles are worth your energy and which are just vanity dressed as importance. Epictetus taught, if you wish to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. It's a reminder that perception is not reality, and that peace is more valuable than the fleeting satisfaction of proving someone wrong. The next time you feel the pull to argue, ask yourself, will this change anything that truly matters? Will it bring me closer to the kind of life I want to live? If the answer is no, then let the moment pass. Listen, ask questions, understand rather than defend. You'll find that most disputes fade quickly when they're not being fed. Your worth is not in the number of debates you've won, but in the steadiness with which you carry yourself. Choose calm over conquest, understanding over the fleeting rush of being right. And as you free yourself from that compulsion, you'll uncover a deeper strength, the kind that doesn't need to be proven to be real. With that, we move to the next lesson, where restraint becomes not just a choice, but a form of quiet power. Lesson 4. Words don't define your worth. Picture this. You're speaking with excitement, sharing an idea you've nurtured for days, maybe weeks. You can feel the energy in your voice, the spark in your thoughts. And then, without warning, someone cuts in with a dismissive remark. It's quick, almost careless, but it lands like a stone in water, sending ripples through your confidence. In an instant, the pride you felt collapses into doubt. Why does this happen? Because too often we allow the voices of others to shape the way we see ourselves. The Stoics remind us that our worth is not a currency for others to measure. Marcus Aurelius observed, "We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinions than our own." The truth is, your value is not tied to anyone's approval, not their praise, not their criticism, not their silence. When you give weight to every passing opinion, you hand over the keys to your emotions. True freedom begins when you take them back. I remember a young architect named Elena who presented her design to a panel. One senior member criticized her work harshly, not with guidance, but with the intent to belittle. Her first instinct was to defend herself, to counter every point. But instead, she took a breath and simply said, "I appreciate your perspective." She went back to her desk, reviewed the feedback, and realized most of it was rooted in preference, not fact. The parts that could help her grow, she kept. The rest, she left where it belonged, in the mind of the one who said it. That day, she learned that her work could be refined by constructive input, but her worth was untouched by cheap shots. This isn't about ignoring every opinion or living in isolation. Feedback, when honest and fair, can sharpen you. But unwarranted negativity is just noise, and not all noise deserves your attention. Lao Tzu put it plainly: care about what other people think, and you will always be their prisoner. The next time someone's words sting, pause. Ask yourself, is this truth, or is this merely their perspective? If there is truth in it, use it to grow. If not, let it fall away without entering your heart. And then, remind yourself, your value existed before their words, and will remain long after they are forgotten. When you stop letting others dictate your sense of self, you step into a deeper authenticity. You become harder to shake, not because you're deaf to the world, but because you've chosen which voices have the right to enter. That's where real confidence lives, in the quiet certainty that no one's opinion can diminish your light unless you invite them to. And from that place, we move to the next lesson, where protecting your peace becomes the foundation for every choice you make. Lesson 5. Boundaries protect your energy. Picture this. You're in the middle of a busy day, focused on something important, when a friend calls asking for help with a task they could easily handle themselves. Or maybe a coworker drops a last-minute project on your desk, assuming you'll just say yes. You feel the pull between wanting to help and knowing it will derail your plans. Why is it so hard to say no? Because we've been taught that refusal is selfish, when in truth, boundaries are an act of respect, not just for yourself, but for the relationship as well. The Stoics knew this well. Epictetus said, "Freedom is the ability to live as we wish, and you cannot live as you wish if you've surrendered your time, your energy, and your peace to the demands of everyone else." Saying yes to everything may feel generous in the moment, but over time it drains you, leaving behind resentment and fatigue. You can't pour from an empty cup. I once knew a man named Thomas who was the go-to for everyone in his circle. Late-night calls, last-minute favors, endless advice. He gave it all, believing it was the noble thing to do. But slowly, he noticed his patience thinning and his joy fading. One evening, after yet another midnight call, he decided to change. The next time a friend rang late, he answered with warmth but said, "I care about you, but I need to keep my evenings for rest. Let's talk tomorrow." The friendship didn't end. It improved. People began to respect his time because he respected it first. Boundaries are not walls to shut people out. They're doors you choose when to open. They signal where your energy is best spent and where it must be preserved. Marcus Aurelius advised, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." In the same spirit, if it is not healthy for your peace, do not give it space in your life. The next time you feel overextended, pause and ask, have I communicated my limits clearly? Am I honoring my own boundaries? Be honest and calm in expressing them. "I need this evening to recharge" speaks far better than blaming or shaming. And once you've drawn the line, hold it. People learn how to treat you by watching how you treat yourself. When you protect your energy, you reclaim your ability to show up in the world as your best self, focused, calm, and present. So set your limits, honor them, and watch how much lighter life feels. If you're committed to protecting your peace, type boundaries in the comments. And if these words resonate, subscribe to join others walking this same path of strength and self-respect. Now let's move to the next lesson, where we explore how to hold that calm even when the world tries to shake it. Lesson 6. Detach from others' opinions. Imagine this. You speak up in a meeting, sharing an idea you've poured thought and care into. You expect curiosity, maybe even support, but instead you're met with criticism, or worse, the dull indifference of silence. That sting you feel is real, And if you're not careful, it can spiral into self-doubt. But ask yourself, why do their opinions hold such power over you? The need for approval is woven deep into our nature, yet relying on it is like trying to catch shadows. You reach and reach, but your hands close on nothing. The Stoics remind us that your worth is not something that can be given or taken by another. Epictetus said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." Harsh on the surface, but liberating at its core. Growth often requires walking a path others may not understand, and some will mock what they don't understand. If you live by their applause, you will die by their silence. I once knew a woman named Claire who wore a vibrant hand-painted jacket to work, something she loved because it reminded her of her grandmother. A co-worker, passing in the hall, smirked and said, "That's an interesting choice." In the past, Claire might have hidden the jacket in her closet after that, letting someone else's taste dictate her joy. But she had learned to separate her self-worth from outside opinions. She smiled, thanked them, and went about her day with her jacket still bright against the grey office walls. By day's end, 2 others had complimented it, not because she sought approval, but because her confidence made the jacket shine even more. Everyone sees the world through their own lens, shaped by their experiences, fears, and insecurities. What they say about you often says more about them. When you internalize their judgment, you're letting them write your story. Why let someone else hold the pen? The practice of detachment doesn't mean ignoring all feedback. Constructive criticism grounded in care and truth is a gift, but baseless judgment, that's theirs to carry, not yours. Lao Tzu warned, "Care about people's approval and you will always be their prisoner." Picture such opinions as leaves drifting on a stream. They appear, they float past, and they disappear without ever sinking you. The next time someone's words threaten your confidence, pause and ask yourself, am I living for them or for me? The answer will guide you back to your own compass. When you choose to detach, you choose freedom. Freedom to live authentically, to protect your peace, and to walk forward without waiting for permission. And from that foundation, we can now explore the next lesson, where your inner calm becomes the shield against life's constant tests. Lesson 7. Silence over anger. Picture the scene. You're caught in a heated exchange. The other person says something sharp, maybe even cruel, designed to hit where it hurts. Your heart rate spikes, your face warms, and your tongue feels ready to unleash the perfect retort. But imagine, instead of matching fire with fire, you stop, you breathe, and you say nothing. In that moment, silence becomes your shield. Silence in the face of provocation is not surrender, it's mastery. It's the choice to protect your inner stillness rather than offer it up for the taking. The Stoics knew this well. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best answer to anger is silence. Anger feeds on reaction, and when you withhold yours, the flames wither." This is not passivity. It's strategy. It's refusing to let another person's chaos rewrite the tone of your day. I recall a manager named David who was presenting a project update when a colleague interrupted, openly undermining his credibility in front of the entire team. The room tensed, waiting for a rebuttal, but David simply looked at the speaker, paused, and returned to his presentation without a word. That silence did more than any verbal defense could have. It left the colleague exposed, his attempt to provoke hanging awkwardly in the air. In the days that followed, others remarked on David's composure, quietly noting who had really held the higher ground. Silence has a power words often lack. It creates space, a gap where you can assess the situation, understand the intent behind the words, and decide if any response is truly necessary. If one is, it can come later, stripped of the heat of the moment. The Buddhist teaching says, "Speak only if it improves upon the silence." Most provocations don't meet that standard. Choosing silence doesn't mean suppressing your feelings. It means giving yourself the dignity of time to process, to understand, to choose a reply that serves your long-term peace rather than your short-term pride. It's a refusal to be baited into a battle that offers no real victory. Think of silence as standing on a higher ledge above a storm. The wind may howl, the rain may lash against the rock, but you remain untouched because you chose not to descend into the tempest. In this way, silence isn't the absence of action, it's an action of the highest discipline. So, the next time someone aims their words like weapons, pause and ask yourself, will speaking now bring clarity, or will it simply fuel the fire? Often, the most eloquent response is the one left unspoken. Silence keeps you in control of your own narrative, reminding both you and them that your peace is not negotiable. And from that calm ground, we move to the next lesson, where restraint evolves into a strength that shapes how others see you forever. Lesson 8. Gratitude dissolves anger. We've all had those days where life seems intent on testing us. Plans unravel, someone's careless words sting, and even the smallest inconveniences feel like deliberate insults. Anger builds in the chest like a storm, and the mind asks, why does everything have to be so hard? But what if, in that moment, instead of magnifying everything that's wrong, you shifted your gaze toward what's still right? Gratitude is not just a pleasant feeling, it's a discipline, a deliberate choice to step out of the current of frustration and stand on calmer ground. Cicero once called gratitude the greatest of virtues and the parent of all others. From a Stoic perspective, it's more than politeness. It's a way of reclaiming control over your inner state. You cannot feel true gratitude and pure anger at the same time. The two cannot live in the same breath. Gratitude acts like a reset lever in the mind, reminding you that even in the midst of chaos, good remains. Consider something as ordinary as sitting in a traffic jam while running late to an important meeting. The natural impulse is to stew in irritation, replaying how this delay will cost you. But a grateful mind sees other truths. You have a car, a destination worth reaching, perhaps music or a podcast filling the air. This shift doesn't erase the inconvenience, but it changes your posture toward it. You are no longer its prisoner. I once knew a craftsman named Elias who poured weeks into a commission, only to have the client dismiss his work with a cold, "Not what I envisioned." The sting was sharp, but instead of letting anger dictate his response, he paused and told himself, "I'm grateful for the skill I've built and for the chance to create something I'm proud of." From that place, he could calmly ask for clarity and make adjustments without letting bitterness take root. Gratitude didn't erase the criticism, it stripped it of its power to wound. Marcus Aurelius advised, "Think of yourself as dead. You have lived your life. Now take what's left and live it properly." Gratitude works the same way. It anchors you in what remains rather than what's been lost. This isn't about denying that wrongs and frustrations exist. It's about choosing not to center your life around them. The next time you feel anger rise, stop and ask, what can I be thankful for in this very moment? It may be something small, but small acknowledgements have the power to redirect the whole current of your thoughts. Over time, this habit becomes a shield, one that not only dissolves anger, but builds resilience, patience, and clarity. And from that foundation, we move to the next lesson, where perspective becomes not just a tool, but a constant companion in navigating life's storms. Lesson 9. Criticism as a growth tool. You've just shared something you poured yourself into, a project at work, a creative idea among friends, or a personal post online. Instead of encouragement, you're met with sharp criticism. The instinct is immediate. Defend, explain, maybe even retaliate. It's natural to feel the sting when your effort meets disapproval. But what if, instead of viewing criticism as an attack, you could see it as an ally? What if, hidden inside even the roughest delivery, there was a seed that could help you grow? The Stoics remind us that our peace does not come from controlling others' words, but from controlling our interpretation of them. Epictetus offered this disarming perspective. If someone speaks ill of you, do not defend yourself. Say instead, "He does not know my other faults," or "He would not have mentioned only these." In other words, criticism is rarely the full picture, and it need not be taken as a final judgment on your worth. I once met a designer named Sophia who had her work reviewed by a notoriously blunt senior colleague. His comments cut deep. "This layout is confusing and your color choice is poor." The younger version of her might have bristled, dismissed his words, or carried them home like a wound. But that day, she chose differently. She listened, set aside the tone, and examined the content. Some points were valid. Her layout could be clearer, her palette more intentional. The rest she let go. The result was a stronger design, and, more importantly, a calmer mind. By filtering what was useful and discarding what was not, she turned what felt like a blow into a stepping stone. Criticism, like rain, should be gentle enough to nourish growth without washing away the roots. But the world will not always offer it gently. Some people critique from wisdom, others from envy, ignorance, or personal frustration. The art is in discerning the difference. When a comment comes, pause before reacting. Ask yourself, who is speaking? What do they see that I might not? Does their perspective have substance, or is it simply noise? Even poorly delivered feedback can carry a fragment of truth worth keeping. Marcus Aurelius advised, "If it is endurable, then endure it. Stop complaining." Applied to criticism, this means enduring the discomfort long enough to extract what can help you. Not all feedback will be right. Not all will be fair. But the discipline lies in separating what can serve your growth from what only serves someone else's opinion. The next time someone's words strike you, resist the impulse to defend or dismiss. Instead, treat them as a mirror, not a perfect reflection, but one that might reveal a flaw you hadn't seen. Growth often hides in discomfort, and those who welcome it build a resilience that no passing judgment can shake. From this mindset, we move to the next lesson, where self-control becomes the anchor that holds you steady no matter how fierce the storm. Lesson 10. The strength of letting go. Imagine gripping a burning coal, determined to throw it at the one who wronged you. You wait for the perfect moment, rehearsing in your mind how satisfying it will be to release it. But in the meantime, the coal sears your skin, each second inflicting more pain. Anger, grudges, and resentment work the same way. They do not just harm the target, they scorch the one who carries them. The Stoics understood that the strength of a person is not measured by how long they can cling to their outrage, but by how quickly they can lay it down. Letting go is not the same as forgetting, nor is it excusing the harm done. It is the deliberate choice to release the weight that keeps you tethered to the past. The Buddha expressed it plainly. Holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. This truth is simple, but living it requires courage. The courage to give up the illusion that reliving the wound somehow protects you from it. Think of the last time you were betrayed, misjudged, or spoken to with cruelty. How many hours did you spend replaying the words, imagining the confrontation you wished had happened? Each replay took your presence away from the life in front of you, spending energy you could have used to create something better. I recall a man named Adrian who had his idea stolen by a colleague at work. In a meeting, his concept was presented as someone else's, and the credit was taken without hesitation. For days, Adrian simmered, his mind locked on the injustice. But then he asked himself, "What does holding on give me?" The answer was nothing, only sleepless nights and sour mornings. So he let it go. Not because the act was acceptable, but because he refused to let it poison his days. In time, his consistent quality and calm earned him recognition far beyond what that single stolen idea could have brought. Lao Tzu offered a perspective both humbling and liberating. When I let go of what I am, I become what I might be. Letting go is not only about releasing bitterness toward others, it is also about loosening your grip on perfectionism, fear, and the need to control every outcome. It is accepting that life is unpredictable, that not all wrongs will be righted in your presence, and that your energy is better spent building than brooding. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, "Do not be disturbed by what is outside your power." Letting go is a discipline rooted in this wisdom. You cannot rewrite the past. You cannot force an apology. You cannot make others see what they refuse to see. But you can decide what occupies your mind and spirit. Letting go begins with acknowledging your feelings instead of burying them. Feel the anger, the hurt, the disappointment. Let them pass through you rather than calcify inside you. Then reframe the experience. What did this teach me? How has it strengthened me? Finally, bring yourself back to the present moment. This is where your influence lives, where your life is actually unfolding. I often picture letting go as releasing a balloon. The longer you grip it, the more your hand aches from the strain. You think you are holding on to power, but you are holding on to tension. And then you release it, and there is lightness, even a strange joy, in watching it drift away. This is not surrender to injustice. It is the refusal to let what you cannot change dictate the quality of your days. Some may think holding on makes you strong, but more often it is release that reveals your true power. Because when you let go, you make room for the present to fill you instead of the past. So the next time anger or regret grips you, ask, "Is this worth my peace? What could my life feel like without this weight?" And when you answer honestly, you may find that what you are clinging to is not worth the cost. Letting go is not a loss, it is a return. A return to your clarity, your energy, your freedom. And in that freedom, you will discover that the lighter you travel, the further you can go. You now hold 10 powerful lessons to master your emotions and remain unshakable in any storm. True strength is not in suppressing feelings, but in meeting life with clarity and calm. Choose peace and protect your energy. Comment, "Stay calm" to join the practice. Subscribe to walk this path together and be ready for the next step toward unshakable freedom.